Welcome to the second edition of Zenja Pirate Practice. I'm Christina Hawks. I'm glad that you guys are with me today. I have the windows open, the space is a bit quieter, and I'm guessing this video is going to be a bit better than my first try. I'm going to give it a second to really take a deep breath in and sit as tall as I truly am, rooting my sits bones into the ground, maybe rocking side to side. And then taking an inhale in as I bring my shoulders up towards my ears, my shoulder blades back together on my back, and then down into the pocket where my crown of my head can reach away, my tailbone can reach into the ground. And then I'm going to find those bottom three ribs and bring them slightly back, allowing the back and sides of my waist to also grow taller. With a strong core, I'm going to take a deep breath in, bringing both hands overhead. I'm going to interlace my hands and press my palm towards the sky. Sinking my tailbone into the ground and reaching through the palm of my hands, getting as tall as I am on an inhale, and then rooting my left hip back, I'm going to turn my right shoulder towards the right wall, my left shoulder, my chest, in this twist that is powered by my back. Coming back through center on an inhale, and then I'm going to twist to the left, sinking my right hip back in opposition to my left shoulder turning back, my right shoulder following suit, and then coming back through center. My hands are going to come down behind me, fingertips face the back wall. I'm going to imagine that I could grow the root of my tailbone as a root into the ground, and then from that anchor I could reach up through both sides of my waist, the back and front of my spine. I could allow the crown of my head to grow away from myself as my shoulders sink back in opposition. And maybe by finding all this length, I might also find that I've lowered some. I'm going to take a deep breath in, and on an exhale, I'm going to soften into my hip flexors. Another breath in, maybe staying here, or maybe exhaling those fingers out in front. Again, thinking about being longer instead of lower. I'm going to continue this process as I gently begin to open my hips at the beginning of this practice. Rolling my spine up like a rag doll on the inhale, I'm going to raise both my hands overhead again, and this time I'm going to link elbow to elbow, pushing my elbows and biceps behind my peripheral vision and reaching up through my elbows. I'm going to twist again to the right, using the strength of my upper back to help turn my right shoulder back, and then sinking my left hip back in opposition. Imagining my belly could twist around to the right. Coming back through center, switching the crossing of the elbows, again elbows back and up, shoulders away from the ears, growing as tall as I truly am, and then twisting to the left. My left shoulder goes back, my right shoulder follows around to the left, still pushing up with my elbows, down with my sits bone, anchoring my right hip bone back in opposition to my left shoulder, and crawling my belly around to the left. Coming back through center, taking a deep breath in, bringing my hands down first to my knees, and giving myself a moment, warming up by using the heel of my hands to help massage my inner thighs. And from here, I'm going to roll up and over my knees and find my way back to the back of my mat in a tabletop position. My left leg and my right arm are going to go out at the same time, and I'm going to check to see if my hips are equal to the ground. So if my back left toes are kind of turned sideways, turn your toes back down to the ground so that your hips can be equal. Maybe experiment how you can lift your left hip higher and lower, and then find the place where it's level. Now grow through both sides of your waist, suck your belly button in, reach through the left fingertips. Bring your elbow, knee, and nose together one time on an exhale, and on an inhale, reach everything out. Place your right hand down on the ground and turn your right toes out to the side, kickstand side plank. Left hand comes up through center and reaches towards the sky. You're lifting out of your bottom right rotator cuff. Flex your left foot and press your heel out as though it could touch a wall and press into it. lifting up through your left fingertips, keeping your head in line with the rest of your spine. Taking a deep breath in, and then maybe on an exhale, reaching your left hand forward over your head, reaching in both directions. And then bring knee and nose together here and back out. Take your left arm and cup the backside of your head and press your elbow forward towards the front of the room. And then bring elbow and knee together. Back out. One more time, scrunching in. One more time, coming out. Unwinding that hand and returning hand foot to the floor, bringing your right toes in and finding yourself again in a tabletop position. From here, we're going to send our right leg and left arm out, checking to make sure our right toes are facing the floor, evening out those hips. We can experiment again to find where that point is. Pressing in to our right hand to come out of the rotator cuff, reaching out through our left fingertips, back through our right heel, sucking in our belly button. Taking a deep breath in, and on an exhale, bring elbow, nose, and knee together one time. Coming back out on an inhale, lowering the left hand, turning the left toes to the left, right leg out, toes pointed towards the sky. Right arm can come up to stack wrist, shoulder, shoulder, wrist. Pressing out through the right heel, pressing into our left hand to come up out of the rotator cuff, and then reaching out through the top right fingers. Your gaze can be down on the ground for balance, over to the side wall, or even up at the top hand. If this is feeling good, you can take an inhale to reach your right hand over your head, elbow and palm face towards the ground, still kicking out from your left heel. And then bring your elbow, nose, and knees together from here. Extend as long as you are. Bend the top right arm so that you're cradling your head with it, and reach that elbow back, still pressing that heel away. And now curl in, elbow, nose, and knee. And then come back out to extend. Reaching your left arm forward and then down, bringing those left toes in, finding yourself again in a tabletop position. From here, we're going to float our knees 2 to 3 inches off the ground, just building a little heat in our core. Now, there's a place between cat-cow belly, angry cat, and cow belly breath. There's a neutral spine where your spine seems to almost flatten out somewhat. And if I can reach back through my tailbone, I can reach forward through the crown of my head. I can use the anchor of my hands to help me pull my spine, my heart through the gate of my arms. But I can keep sinking my shoulders away from my ears. And now that we're getting a little warmer, we're going to come back into a modified downward facing dog. Take a look at your hands. Make sure the crease of your hands is pointed straight forward. So that means the middle, for me, between my index and middle finger, is in the middle of my wrist. And then take your elbows out towards the side, bending them. Wrap them underneath you like you could squeeze something between them, and press into your hands. Now stop looking at your hands and find our head position. You should be looking at your glorious toes. If you can see your feet, that's great. But it helps me, instead of dumping my head through the gate of my arms, to try to extend my spine by reaching the crown of my head towards the heel of my hands. My knees are still really bent, but by pressing into the heels of my hands, I can reach my hips further up. Now maybe bend the left knee, but straighten the right leg a little bit more. Pressing your heel into the earth, imagining you could scrub the world away like a treadmill. Now bend the right knee and press your left foot into the floor, as though you could scrub the treadmill away with your left leg. Keep alternating, bending one knee and straightening the other leg. Feel how you can press into the foot of the straight leg to send the sensation up into the hip through the backside of your hamstrings. And then looking forward, Walking slowly up to the front of your mat with knees very bent, we're coming into our first forward fold. Now, I know I told you your toes were glorious, but here you want to check out the view between your knees. We want to let the weight of our head hang down like a bowling ball attached to the spine, using gravity to increase the space between our vertebrae, without straightening our legs right away and demanding that all that flexibility comes out of our lumbar spine. Taking a deep breath in and just softening. Then one hand at a time, we're going to crawl up our legs, rolling our spine vertebrae by vertebrae until we get to the top. There we're going to roll our shoulders up, back, and down, reaching through our fingertips towards the floor, which sinks our shoulders away from our ears, but growing through the crown of our head. Taking those bottom 3 ribs and shifting them in slightly so that the back of our spine gets to be long and we're not arching into the front spine. Rotating our pelvis as though it were a bowl of soup that we didn't want to spill forward. Taking a deep breath in, raising both hands overhead first and then coming down through center. Soft knees, finding ourselves in a forward fold. We're going to halfway lift on an inhale, and on an exhale we're going to step our right leg back, lowering the knee, coming into a low lunge position. Taking both of our hands, we're going to crawl up onto our left thigh, pull your left hip back slightly, and then sink the back of your right hip towards the floor. Grow through both sides of your waist and tuck your bottom 3 ribs in slightly so that the back side is also growing and your spine has a more flat curvature. From here, we're going to take just the right arm up, turning our chest slightly to the left knee, reaching up through our fingertips, still pressing forward and down with our pelvis, pulling our left hip back, right hip forward, and lengthening through the tips of our fingers. Now that we're long through the side waist, we're going to take our right elbow over our left knee as close up towards the armpit as is possible in our practice today. And our left hand is going to come on top. Using the pressure of the left hand pressing into the right, I can help myself to twist around to the left. Trying to bring my thumbs closer to my heart, making a vertical pillar with my hands. Staying here, sinking our pelvis forward and down, twisting our left shoulder back. Or if you want more, you can, with the toes tucked on the back leg, lift your back right knee. If your knee is lifted, press back through that heel. Lengthen through the crown of your head. Pull your left shoulder back. Take a breath, push back through the left heel. Lengthen through the crown of your head like you could pull your heart through the gate of your arms. Bring that left shoulder back. Take a deep breath in. On an exhale, lower your back knee. Spiral your shoulders square to the mat. Use blocks if you need them. And straighten your front left leg, sinking your hips back over your back right knee. Pull your left hip back again so that it's even with your right hip. And then anchoring your tailbone down, grow your spine as though you could pull your heart through that gate of your arms. This is why it's good to have something to be up high on so that you can really feel the grounding in your hands that can help you just become aware of the muscles it would take to make your spine longer intentionally. Taking a deep breath in. If this is feeling good and you can do it without collapsing into your back, you can lower down slightly. If not, just focus on pulling that left hip back, sinking your right hip forward, sucking those bottom 3 ribs in to lengthen both the front and back, as well as the sides of your lower back and side body. And then maybe one more level, just a little deeper, softening on the exhale. Bending that knee, bringing our hips forward slightly. We're going to send that left foot out to the left and turn the toes about 30 degrees out. You want your arms to be able to come to the inside of your left leg beneath both shoulders. So however wide you need to get your left leg to do that, we're going to find a lizard pose. So we're going to even out the hips here, and we're going to pull our left hip back and press the back of our right hip towards the floor at the same time. The back of our pelvis towards the floor. Taking a deep breath in, you can stay here. You can still be on blocks, or if you want more, you can crawl your hands forward and come down onto forearms. Wherever you are, press into the right arm to lean your weight more over to the left. And for right now, keep squeezing your left knee into your left shoulder, sole of the foot on the ground. So pulling that left hip back and sinking your pelvis towards the floor, again pulling the heart through the gate of the arms, seeing how you could grow through the crown of your head. If you'd like more, you can tuck your back toes and lift that knee and then press through that heel, even as you keep aligning that pelvis and sinking it towards the floor and growing forward. Your shoulders are away from your ears, but the crown of your head yearns for the front of the room. Lowering the back knee, we're going to come back up onto our palms first. We're going to turn our chest to the left, and we're going to take our left hand to the inside of our thigh in the middle, above the knee. Flexing our foot like it's in a ski boot, we're going to open that knee out to the side, sinking our pelvis forward and down, really feeling that hip opening. Pushing into the right hand to come out of that rotator cuff. Open your chest to the left. You can stay here, or if you'd like, you can point your back toes, send them up towards the sky, and reach your hand around to grab the pinky toe side of that foot. Using that hand to gently encourage the knee towards the buttocks, you're going to continue to twist your body around in this very dynamic stretch. If you would prefer, you can look down to the ground, crawl your right fingertips forward, and sink down to a forearm. Whatever you've got going on, it's good yoga. If suddenly your breath gets taken away, please revert to a previous position in the pose that wasn't too intense for you. Coming back through center, placing our left sole of the foot down on the floor, crawling up onto our hands, and then tucking our back toes and lifting the knee. Squeeze your left knee into your left shoulder and see if you can balance that knee on the back side of your left arm before finding yourself first in plank pose and then pushing back into downward facing dog. From here, we're going to take a deep breath in, straightening our knees only as much as we'd like to. Feet at least hips distance apart. And then we're going to lift our left heel towards the sky, keeping our hips closed so our toes are pointing towards the ground, and really thinking about pressing our right foot towards the back wall. If I said that wrong, our right foot is the one that's lifted. And then I'm going to come into a plank pose, bringing my knee towards my chest, and as many steps as it takes, I'm going to bring my right foot towards my right thumb, lowering my back knee. I want to make sure that my knee is not exceeding my ankle. We've got a 90-degree tilt. If I need to get any further back, I can tuck the back toes, lift that knee, and use it to scooch me back. But we don't need too wide of a stance right now. As you climb up onto your right thigh, even out your hips. So both front and back and right and left, squeeze your inner thighs. And then think about sucking those bottom 3 ribs back in so that you're lengthening out of both sides of your waist. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down, and take just your left arm towards the sky. Reaching through your left fingertips, getting tall. Turn your chest slightly towards your right leg. Really pulling your right hip back and sinking into your left hip flexor, engaging your left glute muscle to help activate the front antagonistic muscle. And then bring your elbow down on the outside of your right leg as high up close to your armpit as you can. Your right hand is going to come on top of your left in a prayer position, and you're going to use the traction point between those two, pressing down into the right hand to help pull your heart up towards your thumbs, sinking back with the right shoulder, but then taking a moment to realign and pull back with your left hip, Sink the back of your pelvis towards the floor. It's your back that's doing most of the twist, your upper back. So your pelvis can still be organized to be getting that hip flexor stretch. You can stay here, or if you'd like just a little more, maybe a lot more, you can lift your back knee, pressing through that back left heel, pressing into your front foot, pulling back slightly with your left hip, and then rotating your right shoulder in that opposing twist. Pressing into both hands, imagining you could sneak your belly just a little further around. From here, we're going to lower our back knee if it was lifted, bring ourselves so that our shoulders are square, and then crawl our right foot out to the right so that our right hand can come down somewhere underneath our right shoulder. And those right toes are pointed out at about 30 degrees. The knee is squeezing into the right shoulder. I'm pulling back slightly with my right hip and then sinking forward with my entire pelvis to get that hip flexor stretch. My back toes are currently still tucked. You can stay up high like this. You can be even higher on blocks if you need to. But if you are like me and you want to go a little further, you can creep your hands forward and then bring your elbows down to the ground, pressing your palms and forearms in, using the pressure in your elbows to help you lift out of your rotator cuffs, and then pulling your heart through the gate of your arms, reaching the crown of the head forward. Taking a deep breath, staying here, or maybe lifting your back knee with toes tucked, pressing your left heel away from you even as you draw your spine forward and through your arms. Still squeezing that right knee into the right shoulder for now. Taking a deep breath again in lizard pose. And on an exhale, releasing, letting it all go. Lowering the back knee softly. We're going to climb up onto our hands, and we're going to plant our left hand somewhere underneath our shoulder. If your wrists are bothering you, instead of always being right on top of your wrist, you can be about an inch or two behind, but just find a place that's comfortable for you, and they will strengthen over time. Flexing your right foot like it was in a ski boot in order to protect your knee, you're going to turn your whole chest and torso towards the right knee. Then you're going to place your hand in the middle of your thigh above the knee and begin to open that hip out to the side. But you're going to still square your pelvis back down towards the floor, sinking your pelvis forward and down as you're opening that hip out to the side and turning your torso to the right. You can stay here. This is a great place to stay. If you are crazy like me and you'd like more, you can lift your right hand towards the sky, pressing into your left hand to come out of that rotator cuff. You can bend your back leg, pointing the toes, and maybe make a connection between the pinky toe side of your hand and the back foot. Now, you can stay high up on this hand as you squeeze your heel towards your glutes and twist around to the right. Or you can also crawl your left hand forward and come down on your forearms. Either way, imagine you could twist your right shoulder back around your heart, your left shoulder coming up and under, maybe looking around to the right to complete the twist. Another deep breath in, squeeze your foot just a little closer to your glutes. On an exhale, soften the engagement and release, finding yourself with both hands underneath your shoulders, putting the right sole of the foot back down on the ground first, lifting your back knee with your toes tucked, and then squeezing your right knee into your right shoulder. From here, we're going to use that leverage to help lift our right foot and maybe balance it on the back of our right arm, stepping back into plank. Let's all lower our knees for this first round of Chaturanga and open your chest so that there's not a concave space in your collarbone. The eyes of your elbows are pointed forward so that they bend backwards and grace your ribs as you bring yourself safely down to the ground, not putting as much stress on your rotator cuff. Now squeezing your elbows back and down, root your toes back and your pelvis into the floor, and then crawl that long spine up and through the arms, reaching through the crown of your head, elbows squeezing back and down, maybe lifting your hands, and then coming back down. We're going to push all the way up through tabletop first, and then back to downward facing dog. From here, we're going to lift the left leg up, hips square to the ground, heel reaching back, pressing into the hands to lift our hips just a little bit higher. And then we're going to bring our left knee into our chest in high plank first, and then we're going to creep it over behind our right wrist, coming into a high pigeon pose. So take a minute to adjust yourself by utilizing that back knee. Keep your toes tucked for right now. You want to find a place that's not taking your breath away, somewhere that you can really press the back of your pelvis down and you don't have to retreat from the sensation. If you need less, you can allow your foot to come closer to you. If you'd like more though, instead of using your hand to wrench that foot, tucking your back toes, lifting your knee, and sliding back is a good way to find yourself in this position. We're going to come high up onto our fingertips first, pulling our left hip back, pressing our right hip forward, growing through the spine, and then we're going to crawl our hands a little further forward, taking our time coming into this hip release, allowing it to unravel slowly and safely. If you're still being called for more, you can come down onto your forearms. You can put a block underneath your head if that's comfortable. But really try to press into your left arm just a little bit to anchor that right hip more firmly towards the ground. And I like to pull back slightly with my left outer hip as I sink the entire backside of my pelvis forward. You can stay here. You can come further down, resting your head on your hands or your fists. And then taking a deep breath in, we're going to start to climb back up, rolling into our left hip. And then I just want to bring the right leg to be parallel with the side of the mat, and the left leg to be parallel with the front of the mat for a minute, coming to the inside of that right thigh. Use the grounding of my fingertips to help me lift and grow my spine, and then turn slightly towards my left knee. I really feel this in my side waist, and I feel like it's a good twist. You can stay here, or you can place your right hand on the outside of your left knee. Press into the inside of your right leg as though you could press your right leg into the ground and grow your spine even further. And then we're going to send our right leg out. Our left leg has the sole of the foot pressing into the right leg in a triangle shape. Using our left hand to anchor that knee and sitting as tall as we truly are, we're going to bring our right hand with our palm facing up somewhere on top of or inside of our right leg. We're going to use this connection as leverage to help us open our left shoulder back. And we're going to grow our side waist by taking our arm first out, palm facing up, and then over our heads. Now, it doesn't matter how far your arm goes down for right now. You mostly want to make sure that you don't have to close your chest towards the ground. We want to be leaning back with our left shoulder and then reaching out with our left hand. You can use this right arm as a leverage point between your leg, but lift up and out of that shoulder, twisting your spine open. If a straight arm is not comfortable, or even just for variation, you can put your left hand on the side of your head, and then on an inhale, pull back with your left elbow, and on an exhale, reach that elbow towards your right toes. Inhale back with the left elbow. Exhale, reach that elbow towards your toes. Inhaling back, exhaling forward. Coming back up through center, place your left hand on the ground. Take your right hand across your body and come up onto your left knee, bringing your right arm around and over your head, palm facing down, pressing your hips forward and up. Maybe the right sole of the foot is on the ground, and then continuing that big circle with your right arm as you sit back down. From here, we're going to switch the crossing of our legs, and then we're going to do that whole sequence backwards on the other side. So now our right foot is, the sole of it is on the inside of our thigh. And we're going to take our left backside of our arm, either on top of our leg or on the inside. A block is even something that you could use if you'd like to be up a little bit higher. So I'm using that as leverage to help open my right shoulder back. And I'm going to bring my hand first to shoulder height, turn the whole arm so that it's rotating, thumb back, palm facing up, starting at the shoulder, and then reach it over my head as though I could touch my left toes. Take a moment to look at your toes and make sure you haven't splayed to either side, but they're facing up towards the ground. You've got a flexed foot. You're intentionally engaging your leg. We're going to take a deep breath in, rolling that shoulder back, and on an exhale, bringing those fingertips a little farther out. We're not forcing ourselves to lean over and grab our toes, and thereby destroying the integrity of the pose by closing our shoulders, but instead we're trying to open our heart towards the sky, sinking and rooting into that right hip, even as I'm reaching out through those left fingers. And maybe just for variety, putting my right hand on my side of my head, pulling back with my right elbow on an inhale, leaning over to the side on an exhale, pulling back on an inhale, leaning over to the side on an exhale. Coming back up, we're going to place our right hand on the ground. Our left arm is going to cross our body first as we lift up onto that right knee. The sole of our left foot comes down to the ground, and our left arm traces a big, slow, beautiful princess dance move circle around, and as it comes back towards our hips, we're going to lower back down onto the ground. And then from here, we're going to find ourselves on this side with our front leg parallel to the front of the mat and our left leg parallel to the side. We're going to grow through both sides of our waist, and then we're going to twist slightly over towards the right knee. Taking a deep breath in, getting longer. If you like, you can bring your left hand to the outside of your left knee. Use that traction to help you press the inside of your left leg down towards the floor and grow and twist through your spine. Bringing that right shoulder back, anchoring your pubic bone, sucking in your belly button to stay safe. And then from here, maybe you want to come into a more full pigeon. We're going to start with upright pigeon, and we're going to lean our weight into our front leg, pulling that foot back as much as we need to find the sensation we want, tucking our back left toes and using that leg to help us adjust where we want to be. Finding a place where we don't have to lean off into the right hip too much, and we can pull the right hip back and sink the left hip forward. First, we're going to get as tall as we truly can, like upward dog style torso, but pigeon legs. And then we're going to crawl our hands forward if we'd like. You can stay up on your hands. You can come down to your forearms. Maybe tuck your back toes and squiggle wigs just a little further back if that feels comfortable now that we're settling in. Press a little into your right arm to lean more weight into your left hip, coming down towards the ground. Maybe staying high, maybe coming down onto your fists, or your hands, or the floor. And slowly pressing yourself back up onto your hands, tucking your back toes, lifting, pressing through your hands, lifting your hips, and dragging your right foot back to find downward facing dog. Left leg to the sky, heel reaches back, pressing into the hands. And then joining both feet, looking towards your hands and stepping or hopping to the front-ish side of your mat. Still soft knees if you need them. Coming into a gentle forward fold, palms up, wrists flexed. All the thoughts drain. Looking through your knees. We're going to do a halfway lift, reaching back through the tailbone and out through the crown of the head, sucking our belly button in, flattening that lower spine, and then coming down again into a forward fold. If you feel a little more loose, make sure you're finding all four corners of your feet and press into your feet to send energy up the backs of your legs. Imagine that you could lift and spread your sits bones. Allow your head to get longer, lengthening your cervical and thoracic spine. And then soft knees, we're going to come all the way up, hands overhead, and then bring our hands to the center of our heart. We're going to do a little bit of work on balance. So I want you to lean into your left foot and come up onto your right toes. Lift your right knee towards the sky with a flexed foot. And if that's going well, you can interlace your fingers around the front of your right shin. Hips forward, shoulders back, crown reaches towards the sky, focusing on an unmoving spot. The easiest place is on the ground. Now that we've got all that going on, see if you can lower your right hip slightly so that it's more even with your left hip. And then imagine you could squeeze your inner thighs together. Woo. Softening the engagement of your leg first and finding your hands back in prayer position. Imagine your legs were a pair of scissors so that as we're sliding this right leg back, it has to come close to the left leg. And keep squeezing those inner thighs even as it begins to come behind you. Imagine you were a little tippy bird. Woo. And falling is fine. I think it's hard for me today, but that's okay. I'm still trying. So eventually I'm trying to find a T shape where my torso and leg are parallel to the ground. I'm keeping my hip closed, my back toes are pointed towards the ground, and I'm pressing through that heel as though I could touch a wall behind me. And now I'm going to try to tick-tock my way back up so that my knee is once again lifted in front of me. And one more time, I'm going to try to tick-tock back as best I can to this variation of Warrior 3. Now the sound of falling is the sound of courage. Touching the ground is okay. Your body is learning and strengthening with every mistake. Our knees come back up in front of us, and then we're going to place that foot down on the ground. Now, two sides of our body are different. I did my non-dominant leg first. It really helps to believe you're going to succeed. So I'm going to first find all four corners of my feet, lift and spread my toes, and center them back down on the ground. I'm going to roll my shoulders up, back, and down, sucking in those bottom three ribs and tilting the tailbone, engaging my core. Standing firmly in the right leg, I'm going to lift my left toes, and then I'm going to lift that knee to hip height, or wherever you can lift it today. I'm going to use my hands to interlace around the front of my shin to bring my knee higher, my hips forward, my shoulders back, crown of the head reaching towards the sky, shoulder blades anchoring down and away from the ears. Then I'm going to lower that left hip so that it's in line with the right and soften the engagement of the hold with my hand and my knee. Bringing my hands back together in a prayer position in my chest. I'm going to keep my gaze steady on the ground as squeezing my inner thighs past one another, I begin to kick that left leg back and out behind me, straightening it, imagining I could press my foot into a wall. Maybe. At least in a perfect world, that's what I'd be doing today. That's what I do sometimes. And then squeezing my inner thighs. I'm going to bring myself back so that my knee comes up in front of me. Let's try it again. I can get some redemption. It's hard to talk and do this stuff at the same time. Yeah, my cat believes in me though. Don't you, corkscrew? Alright. And then bringing that knee back through and up. One more time. I'm not sure if we did it the same number of times, but I'm also trying to let go of the need for everything to be symmetrical. Bringing it back through, and then lowering that leg down, maybe rocking back and forth to loosen up those legs. Hands are going to come above the head, down through center, soft knees, finding yourself in a forward fold. You can either step back into plank or jump into chaturanga, lowering down, up dog or baby cobra, back to downward facing dog. We're going to lift our right leg towards the sky, and this time we're going to point our toes and open our hip, really stretching that leg as far up and back as we can, and then bending that knee, lifting the knee towards the sky. We're going to sink our right armpit back down towards the ground to anchor and square our shoulders. Then maybe look underneath our left arm at our foot that's behind our back. Give it a couple rolls through the ankle. And then point your toes. Re-square your hips and lower your right leg. From here, put all the weight into the right hand and take the left hand up to the outside of the right hip. Allow it to slide down the back of your leg to wherever you're comfortable, and then use the leverage of your hand on your leg and the hand on the floor to pull your left shoulder underneath you, twisting your heart towards the right side of the room. Placing our left hand back down on the floor, we're going to rinse it out by coming into plank and lowering all the way down on the ground. I'd like you to interlace your hands behind your back, roll your shoulders up towards your ears together on your back and down, and begin to reach your knuckles towards the back wall, thereby lifting your chest. Anchoring your pubic bone down into the ground, pointing your toes, squeezing your inner thighs, and reaching back with your fingertips and your toes. And then coming back down, hands beneath your shoulders, pressing up, maybe onto your knees or just into a high plank, and coming back into downward facing dog. We're going to lift our left leg, and this time we're going to open that hip, reaching the toes up and back first, stacking our hips and then bending that knee. Pressing into the left armpit so that we can square our shoulders back down towards the ground and look over and maybe see our top left foot behind us. Squiggle your heel around, crunch up your toes, and then coming back through center first, squaring the hips and allowing that foot to come down next to the right, pedaling out the heels. Now this time we're going to lean all of our weight into our left hand, and we're going to take our right hand to the outside of our left hip first, and then slide it down the back of our leg wherever we can reach. Then using the pressure of the hands to help twist your right shoulder under, left shoulder back, still sinking both of your heels in this downward facing dog, pressing into your left hand and up and out of that rotator cuff, and then coming back through center first, lowering the knees, and finding ourselves in child's position. Knees can be open or closed. Feel how in this position your breath fills the back and sides of your lungs instead of just the front. Bring your arms down along beside your legs and feel how the weight of the shoulders pulling down in this position can add a stretch as you breathe, filling all the way up into the back side of your body. From here, I want you to roll vertebrae by vertebrae up and find yourself in a Virasana pose. Right now I'm sitting with all my toes tucked, so I'm going to lean forward slightly onto my fingertips and then tuck my toes. Use your hands to help make sure your little baby toes didn't escape. And then roll your shoulders up, back, and down. This is a great stretch for the bottom of the feet as we start thinking about camel pose. I'm going to come up now so that my hips are stacked over my knees, and I'm going to put my left hand on my chest and my right hand on my belly. I'm going to tilt my tailbone down so that and suck my belly button in, flattening out through the core and lengthening through the spine. Now with this core, I'm going to squeeze my buttocks and I'm going to lean myself back like a plank and then forward. Back. Feel what that support through the core feels like. And now as I go back, the first thing I'm going to do is allow my right hand to come down to my right heel. If this is comfortable, I'm going to allow my left hand to go down to my left heel. And then I'm going to start pressing my hips forward and reaching my chest up. If it's comfortable, you can lean your head back on the shelf made by your trapezius muscles, really lifting, allowing your shoulder blades to help support the backside of your heart. Breathing deep will extend the threshold of this pose. And then head comes up first, sinking back a little bit into that plank pose first, and then coming up, finding that support. We're going to do this one more time. You can stay up with your toes tucked, or if you want a little more, you can untuck your toes. This time my right hand is on my chest and my left hand is on my belly. And first I'm tucking that tailbone down, bringing those ribs in and engaging my core, sucking in my belly button. And I'm going to maintain that feeling using my quad muscles too as I lean back, back, back in a little plank. Forward, forward, forward. This time when I get back, my left hand is going to come to my left heel first, and my right hand is going to come to my right heel. I'm going to allow my shoulder blades to come up underneath and support my heart, and then press my hips forward if it's comfortable, leaning my head back. Taking a deep breath in. As deep as you can. It's hard to breathe deep sometimes, and that's why it's important to try. And then head comes up first, coming back into that plank support and bringing yourself up, sinking back down into Virasana. From here, leaning off to one side, moving your legs forward, and then finding your way down onto your back. We're going to do a couple moving bridges today. So your soles of your feet are flat on the ground. The hips are near your glute, or the heels are near your glute muscles. And you're going to press into your feet to start lifting your hips, lifting your arms at the same time over your head, and then exhaling as you bring your arms, whole spine, and pelvis back down onto the floor. Feel the imprint here. Press your lower back into the floor by tilting your pelvis and sucking your bottom 3 ribs in. And then feel it as it changes to an arch as you press into your feet to lift your hips. Arms going biceps near ears, up and above your head. And then sinking back down vertebrae by vertebrae. Find that place where your back is imprinted on the floor again. Now I'd like you to roll your shoulders up underneath you a little bit. Press into your heels and see if you can sneak your hands underneath your back, maybe even interlace fingers, rocking side to side to really tuck your shoulder blades together behind you to support the lift of your heart. And now pressing through your heels, lifting your hips. Now it's someplace between completely relaxed glutes and tight glutes. It's a place in the middle where you can feel your lower back releasing, but still maintaining the support and protection of having some muscles engaged. Taking a deep breath in, and then lowering ourselves down to the ground. I'm untucking my shoulder blades from behind me and bringing my arms out to shoulder height in a T. I'm going to cross my right leg over my left and hop my whole hips over to the right, lowering my knees to the left, uncrossing my legs if it's too intense, maybe turning my head over to the right to look at my right hand, sinking my right shoulder towards the ground. This is a great place to stay. If you'd like a bit more of an intense twist, you can use your left hand to grab the toes of your the big toe of your top right leg, and then scoot your left leg straight underneath you and press out through the right leg. getting a leg stretch at the same time. Leaning your right shoulder back down towards the ground. Taking a deep breath in. And then softening the knee of the bound leg first. Bringing our knees back together and coming through center. Taking a deep breath here. And then crossing or stacking our left knee on top of the right. Hopping our hips over to the left and bringing our knees close to our chest. We roll down so that our legs are over to the right. Looking over our left shoulder and sinking that shoulder back down. Staying here in what is a very feel-good pose. Or if you like a little more, you can grab the big toe with your peace fingers of your right hand and then scoot your right leg underneath you straight. Sending your left leg to your version of straight, but without you having to use the strength of your arm. If you need to hold somewhere down on your calf or shin, that's fine. Or just stay in the previous stretch. For me, I can hold on to my toe without having to pull on it, but I do use that traction to know where my threshold is and make sure that I stay there. Softening that knee first, bending both knees and finding yourself on your back. Knees knocked together for a moment. And then bringing both knees in, curling your head up towards your knees. Realigning your spine, breathing deeply, giving all of yourselves the hug that I wish I could give to you. And then slowly finding your way down into Shavasana. Adjust whatever it is that you need to adjust. Get out all your wiggles. I like to starfish. I like to take up a lot of space. So now that we're here, it would be tempting to let our day creep back in. But a big part of why I like this practice is because it helps me take my crazy squirrel of a mind and notice the things that are happening in there that I'm barely aware of. And then it teaches me to let those thoughts go for a moment by focusing on things that I can sense in the present. Right now I can hear the birds chirping. I can feel the breeze from the open window. Every so often I can hear a car go by on the busy street, but I don't focus on the car, I focus on the birds. Take one more deep breath in and let go of anything that you can that you're holding on to that you don't need to. The floor is supporting you. No muscles need to be active. Well, no is a stretch, but we're very busy on a cellular level. So notice what's around you. Notice the feelings in your body. And then notice where you can release more on every exhale. I have a very wet cat that has decided it's time for me to end Shavasana. Very wet. Wow. So I'm going to start wiggling my fingers and toes. I'm going to roll over to my right side. And I'm pressing myself slowly up to seated. I want to thank you all for helping me to have a practice at all today. Namaste.